just so y'all know. That's right, I forgot we were gonna do that. Cool, all right, I think we're recording now. Good, good. All right, so I just want to talk a little bit, just at the beginning, about the basics and the goals, and specifically thinking about live streaming worship, though you definitely can live stream other things. But we'll start there. I think one of the big things, and I know Jason covered this when he talked too, is when we live streaming is a different thing than in person. It has different challenges and it also has different opportunities, and you kind of have to approach it that way. Especially now. Before, when most people were in the room and there was a handful of people on the streaming, you'd set up a camera in the back and maybe you stream it out to the world. And for those few folks who just for whatever reason couldn't make it to church that day, or whatever, that was fine. For the moment we're in now, and at least in Colorado, we're going to be in for a while yet, is either almost exclusively live streaming, or the next step for us will be kind of a hybrid thing where maybe we'll get to have a handful of people in the building, but most of our folks are still going to be joining us online. At that point, we have to treat it a little differently, and really just setting the camera up in the back of the room doesn't work. And the biggest consideration is, how do you frame your shot, and how do you do it so that people can really engage with what you're doing. And really the best advice that I've encountered that I thought was really, really helpful is, if you just do a Google image search on the evening news. And in fact, I did that. So I'm going to share that with you all real quick. So if you do kind of a Google image search on the evening news, you can kind of see how they frame their shots. And one of the things they do, if it's just going to be the person, then typically the person is centered, and they're taking up about a third of the space, and you're really only getting at most a waist up kind of shot. And the reason that you want this is people want to see your eyes, right? That's how human beings think and talk and communicate with each other. We naturally look at each other in the eye, which is actually one of the challenging things about doing things like Zoom calls, because we can't look at each other in the eye. I either have to look at your eyes or I have to look at the camera, which means it doesn't, that's, and so it doesn't look like I'm looking you in the eye. So I mean, that's one of the things that you need to consider when you're kind of framing this up, is how do you get a camera in a placement that lets you kind of frame the shot well. And really the default position is going to be kind of the middle third of the frame, at most waist up, not a lot of airspace above your head. You can see that's another thing that happens. And what that preserves is it lets people actually see your eyes and your facial expressions, and all of that. And it just keeps people engaged better. And that is the biggest challenge of our time, with everything, with live streaming in general, is that engagement level, because people are in their homes, they're in a little bit more distracted environment. The challenge with keeping people engaged is a little higher when we're doing it this way. So one of the things is to kind of just look at the pros. So look at what like I said, the evening news does. Look at what your favorite late night people do, and you'll get a pretty good idea, crash course, in how to do that. If it's more than just you, if you're more than just one person, then you obviously got to kind of back it up, but again, try to fill as much of the frame with people as possible. One of the things that I've heard is that people like to see, and I've heard this from my church, because they can't be in the building, they do like to see the building, and they like to see familiar things and all of that. And that's fine, and I get that. You can also, change it up. I mean, if you have somebody who's running your camera or whatever, you can do kind of a wider shot in the beginning, especially when you're doing greeting time and, or doing announcements or whatever, so that people can, look at the stained glass that they miss and everything. But especially when it comes to things like sermon time, prayer time, any of that stuff, you want to switch it up to be in that kind of nice, tight frame shot. The way that a lot of us are right now, if you kind of look at how most of us are framed in this thing right now, is actually pretty good. Or put a picture up of the things that people miss seeing, or whatever. But I promise you that at the end of the day, the engagement level of letting people see you closer is important. This is especially true for people who are hard of hearing, because people who are hard of hearing, the nice thing about live streaming is people who are hard of hearing can turn the volume up on their TVs as loud as they need to, so that's nice. But a lot of us, a lot of folks who are hard of hearing don't only look at eyes, but they look at lips. And if you're too far away, it makes it impossible. It makes it really difficult for people to be able to look at your lips. I mean, that's one of the challenges now with all wearing face masks outside, right? It's not that it's even muffling what we do. It's that we're used to looking at people's mouths, and all of us can sort of instinctively lip read a little, and if you're hard of hearing, you get really good at it. So you need to give people the gift of being able to, see your face and make eye contact. And of course, it goes without saying, look at the camera, so I know it's hard to, it goes without saying. The other thing you'll notice if you go back in your Google stuff, is where camera placements are. The angle matters, as far as it is. Most professional stuff you will see is pretty much a straight on shot, right? It's as if the idea is if it's two people of kind of equivalent height, we're like sitting across from each other at the dinner table, right? Like the camera's down at the same level that you are, versus looking down at you, which will actually make you look small and actually, or looking up at you where we get to get a really good view right up your nose, right? Like nobody wants that. So again, I mean, what we're trying to do is kind of replicate natural human interaction as much as possible. And unless you happen to be an exceedingly tall person, which I am not, I'm kind of average height, we're used to looking at other average height people in the eyes straight across from us. So, you may have, I have a tripod for my primary camera that can be like 6 feet tall if I want it to be. But because during most of our broadcasting, I'm sitting, it's, the camera's sitting at about chair height. It's sitting about, 4 feet off the ground, or about head height if you're sitting in a chair. So it's sitting about 4.5 feet off the ground. So, when you're just getting started, you're just trying to get stuff put together, I know, but as we work to kind of perfect this is one of the things we need to work on. One of the, when live streaming first came into vogue, it was really popular to stick your cameras in your balconies, and look down on everything with a nice wide shot that you could see everything. And that always just gave me vertigo whenever I saw those things. So that's not, and it's also just unnatural. Like most folks who don't sit in the balcony, that is not a perspective on the universe most of us have. So the gift of this time, the gift of live streaming, is you're able to get intimate, you'll be able to get closer. Even if it doesn't change anything about the microphones or anything in your room, if you just get your shot closer, people will tell you they'll hear better. So if you're getting questions or complaints or concerns about the quality of the audio, which we'll talk about audio in a minute, also consider though this issue too, because if people can't see your lips and they can't see your eyes, then they struggle to hear, which seems a little weird, but it's just how humans are wired. So the other thing, just a quick note too about camera placement is, do get a tripod. Just buy one, and do one of two things. Either get a cheap tripod that's going to hold whatever you're using up, whatever device is up. Just get a cheap one that you can move around. And that's fine. The Amazon has an Amazon Basics tripod that's like $24, and it's fine. That's great if you're not going to move the camera. If you're just going to set the camera up and you're going to leave it there the whole time and you're not going to move it around, just get the $20 camera. If you are going to move the camera around live, right? If you want to be able to, pan left to right or whatever, then you want to spend the money on a fluid head tripod. And you're gonna spend $150 on it, and that's what they cost. And you're not gonna, by the way, you're not gonna leave it in your car when it's below freezing like I did, because they mean fluid. I ruined a $200 tripod on a really cold Montana evening once, so don't do that. So either basically buy the $20 tripod or buy the $150 tripod. And this is one of those places where it kind of depends where you're planning to go. So before we move on to that, are there any questions about framing the picture, framing the shot? Okay.
I just have a question as we go back to more traditional settings, and it's not just.
Is that just me, or did we lose her?
I think we lost Blossom. That was Blossom speaking.
Okay. Oh, no, she looks. Oh, that was Blossom. Okay, and she's frozen. All right. I think. Well, we'll wait for her to come back because she'll want to hear the answer to the question. I think I know what she was about to ask, which is what do we do when we go back to more traditional settings? And that's actually a nice segue into thinking about. There's a couple things that we should be thinking about at this point, which is not just how are we going to get through the next couple of weeks, but long term, where do we want to get? And if live streaming is something that you kind of want to have, in your bag of tricks, like if it's something that you want to, invest in, not just for this moment, but it's to keep it as an option moving forward, then you should kind of make that decision, before you go out and buy a bunch of stuff. Because you can buy stuff, and we'll go through some different scenarios. I mean, you can buy some stuff that's going to work for now and get you good enough quality for now. But some of these are basically dead end roads where, yeah, you can buy it and you'll get something good. But if you ever want to grow and advance and do more complicated things like having multiple cameras going at the same time and all that kind of stuff, some of the platforms, kind of the one and done platforms, aren't going to let you do that. And then you're going to end up kind of starting over versus maybe spending a little bit more now. Even if you're just going to do a single camera, and then preserve the ability to kind of build on the system moving forward. So Blossom's back. Did you have a question?
I started asking a question and everybody froze, and I realized it was really me that froze. My question, thank you. My question was just the challenge of, as we go back from the entire audience being the people online to when we try to invite some to come back into the congregation, what does framing and things like that look like when we're going from it being very intimate? I look at some of the online services and the camera's very far back, it's not a close-up. So do we try to continue the close-up shots in a sense when we're actually going from farther back in the sanctuary? Does that make sense?
Yes, and the answer is yes, you do. I mean, so basically the experience we want for the people at home, whether there's other people in our sanctuaries or not, is that same sort of intimate feel. It's going to be a little more challenging because people tend to move around more, when we're in normal worship and all that kind of stuff. And so, a couple of options there. Basically, what you want is you always want to fill the screen as much as you can with people. So like if you're doing the choir, then you're going to need a little wider shot because you got the choir, but you still want it on the choir. You want people to see and experience the choir. You don't want a bunch of the extraneous stuff on the side. So, so that maintains the same. Now, right now, I can plot my camera down in the middle of, the center aisle of my church, and no one's there to complain to me that, that it's there, So those kinds of things are going to become challenges moving forward. That said, I don't think for a lot of us the live streaming genie is going back in the bottle. I think people know it's an option. They're getting used to it being an option. I fully expect, we didn't have a lot of people opt into it before. I expect even when we get back to quote unquote normal, I expect to see more people opting into it. I also know that, we have in our churches, I know a lot of churches do, a lot of people with either immunocompromised people or people with children who are immunocompromised. I don't expect to see them back in the church for a long time. Even when we can gather in larger groups again. Especially if this comes back in the fall, like we're all hoping it doesn't, but it certainly could. So I think in much the ways that workplaces are having to deal with the reality that people like working from home, and that employers are probably going to demand, or employees are going to demand more working from home. I think we're going to see people wanting to opt in to live streaming more. So we do have to figure out how to preserve it. So when we talk about cameras, we'll talk about that when we have to go back to the room, because that's really where your options are. So one thing. So again, the one thing is, as we're going through this, we're all kind of. I know a lot of us kind of threw stuff together just to make it work for now, which is what we needed to do. But this is also an opportunity, and the whole never waste a crisis idea. This is also an opportunity to invest some stuff now that will continue to serve us moving forward. So if you're a smaller church, and you're probably only ever just going to have a very basic setup, then get the basic setup that works for you. Get the basic setup that works and has a high quality. Don't spend any more than you need to. That makes sense. If you're a congregation that, especially if you're medium size or larger, or want to really lean into this as a long-term thing, think about not only where you are, but where you're going to go. So the dominant setups that I've seen kind of break out into 3 parts, and I actually finished writing an article about it this morning that I think Allie emailed out to everybody. So you'll have that article, you can look at it. But the 3 kind of main kind of developments is one, doing something based around your smartphone. That's where, if you're just starting, that's what a lot of people are doing. If you have any smartphone made in the last 4 years, then you've got a decent enough camera to stream with, and you're as far as that goes. The nice thing is it is kind of an all-in-one platform, right, for doing that. Where the smartphone will let you down is in your audio quality. A phone is meant to record you doing this, maybe your kid blowing out birthday candles, but it's just physically not possible to get, they figured out a way to physically fit a really nice lenses on these for the video part. It's just physically not possible to put a high quality microphone in this form factor. It's just not possible. So if you're going to do kind of smartphone based, then you get the $20 tripod, so you can keep it nice and steady. You get, a little adapter that lets you adapt your phone to the tripod. And then you want to get something else to augment the audio quality. And you have a couple of choices. You can either get something that attaches directly to your phone and still leaves it as kind of an all-in-one solution, or you can get like a detached mic. If you're going to put something that goes on your phone, what you want, you have a couple of choices. If it's just you, if you're just streaming you, like one person, then the best quality you're going to get is a lavalier style mic, which is what a lot of us use on Sunday mornings, right? Is a lavalier style mic, clips on your collar, goes to a little backpack, goes into your sound system. They make those that are specifically designed for smartphones. This is all in the articles, throw it if you want to. This is the Rode Smart Lavalier mic. It's a lavalier mic designed exactly what sounds like it sounds like. It's designed to plug into your smartphone. I have mine in my little adapter because I have an iPhone and they don't have, headphone jacks anymore. But it works just fine. It's not particularly long, so you may need to get like an extension cable for it. I've got a 20-foot extension cable for this, and it works fine. This is about an $80 mic. You can buy a $15 lavalier microphone. I would not suggest you do that, because microphones is one of those places where you get what you pay for, up to a certain point. I've never been able to hear the difference between a $200 mic and a $1,000 mic, but you can tell the difference between a $20 mic and a $200 mic. So, this is $80. This is $80 well spent. The other option from Rode that I really like, is they actually came up with this only just about a year ago, is they actually have a wireless version, basically. And you get a little teeny transceiver and a little teeny receiver, and it plugs into your camcorder or your phone or whatever you're doing. This actually has the microphone built in, and it's got a little clip on it. So you can just clip it in your pocket. You can clip it in your shirt. The other thing it has is it actually has a microphone in on the backpack. So what I actually do is I plug my Rode Smart Lav into this, and then this end gets plugged into in this case, our camera, because we use an actual camera. But you could also plug it into your smartphone. You know, and this has a range of like 300 feet, and it's rechargeable. They have their own, they're rechargeable, you know, standard USB charging. I've never run the batteries down. I mean, I charge it fairly frequently, but I think it's something like 8 hours or something like that, ridiculous on it. So this is a fantastically handy product if it's just you, gets the microphone nice and close up to you. If you're having audio problems and it's mostly just you doing the talking, doing either one of these and reframing your shot will pretty much take care of it for you. If it's more than just you, if there's a couple of you doing it, or you know, you've got a couple of folks going on and you want to keep it simple, then the next option is you want some sort of directional mic. You know, so there are microphones that are just designed to kind of pick up the whole world around them, and that's part of the challenge with the mic on your smartphone. Is it's basically just meant to pick up everything going on around you. So it's picking up the person standing behind it, running the camera, just as much as it's picking up you. They make directional microphones in several varieties. This is the Shure MV88. It is designed to plug in. This is the iPhone version. It's designed to plug into the bottom of your iPhone. It's got a lightning connector on it. So it doesn't work with my case, unfortunately. So let's see. You plug it in to the bottom of your thing. As you can see, it's directional. It's a directional shotgun style microphone. You point it at what you want to listen to. You can flip it around if you're doing, you know, selfie mode, or if you're doing, you know, this way. This is my go-to directional mic. I record my podcast with it. Any live streaming we do in the field, we do with this mic. And the nice thing is it's got a pretty wide, basically it's got a 60-degree range. Most style mics like this have about a 60-degree angle that they're primarily listening to out front. So you can get 3 or 4 people, you know, in that 60 degrees pretty easy. This is, we purchased a couple of these, like for our music people. So one of the things that, like our musician's home too. So what she does is she sets up her phone on a tripod and points the microphone at her and her piano, and she records her music that we then play on Sunday mornings, and it works remarkably well. So I said, this is the Shure MV88. Rode actually makes one too. Rode makes this thing called the Video Mic Me. I have one, but I lent it out, so I don't have it to show you. And it actually has a headphone jack adapter on the end instead of the lightning adapter. So it will work on anything with a headphone jack, iPod, iPad, Samsung, Galaxy, you know, whatever. And just plugs right in and then does the same thing. It's got a directionality to it. You just point at the thing you want to listen to. Either of these will increase the quality of your audio dramatically. And don't only think about it just for the live streaming, also thinking about if you're doing any pre-recorded content. And you want.
Jeremy, there's a question about the compatibility of each of those mics with like an Android phone or an iPhone.
I do not believe Shure has released a version for Android because it probably has to have a USB-C connector. This, as far as I know, only comes in the Lightning connector version. The Rode Video Mic Me, because it's a standard, micro headphone style connector, will work on anything that has that connector. So that's the best choice for those kind of things. And you can use it in conjunction with, you know, the adapter cable if you want to. Cool. So that's kind of the basics. You know, you can spend, you know, if you've already got the phone, you're gonna spend a couple $100, you know, on a nice mic. And then you're gonna, you know, if you're streaming to Facebook or whatever, you're just gonna stream out of the app on your phone. It really just does not get any easier than that. So that's kind of step one. Now, the thing about that is, you know, these are great, but they only work on your phone. The Rode mic, like this, it'll work on your phone, but it'll also work if you get like if you decide to move to actually having an actual camera that you're using for the video portion. Almost all camcorders these days have a microphone in. So this will plug right into your microphone in. So the nice thing is this is something you can take with you. You can start using it on your smartphone, And then you can take it with you as you get into more sophisticated stuff moving forward. You don't have to leave it, leave it behind. And I hate putting equipment on the shelf. I want to keep using it. So the next step up from kind of doing everything on your smartphone would be to kind of, this is kind of an all-in-one device, is to start kind of breaking things up. And the first thing you're going to probably do is you're going to go to, having a separate camera and something to stream what's coming from that camera, right? There's some options there. You can use your laptop to do it if you have a computer. You can use a dedicated box to do it, or whatever. Cameras are another one of those things that's fairly consistent, I think, in a lot of what I've discovered around this process is you either get the cheap thing that works, So I think in the article, when we talked about cameras, the Canon Vixia R800, perfectly fine, little, point and shoot camcorder. It works. It's definitely higher quality than what's on your phone. It's got a bigger lens, bigger circuits, all that kind of stuff. Nothing too expensive, not going to cost you a lot of money. Has a microphone input on it, so you can, take input from one of these or something else, for it. Just works. And you either do that or where the cheap cameras are going to let you down is on their zoom. They're not going to come with a lot of optical zoom, which is what you want. And so with those, you're going to want to be, much like with your phone, you're going to want to be close. So if you're going to use a less expensive camera, you don't want to put a less expensive camera all the way 200 feet in the back of your sanctuary and then rely on the zoom to zoom you in. One is you're going to get a pretty shaky picture. And then two, it's just the quality level is just not going to be there for it. So that's where, like to Blossom's question, how do we get around the fact that, practically speaking, there's only so many places we can put a camera discreetly, when there's actually people in the sanctuary. This is where actually investing in a nicer camera that's got a higher quality optical zoom on it is going to be the important thing. So we use a Canon XE10. That's going to be a $1,300 camera. They make an XE15, which is about $1,700. It doesn't change much about the optics. Probably not really worth it. But the nice thing about the XE10 is you get a pretty decent built-in optical zoom. It's actually got a lens on it that's similar to a lens you would get on like a DSLR camera or a professional photography camera. But it's still an all-in-one unit. The nice thing is it's still all-in-one. It still, works as you would expect kind of a camcorder to work, but it's got more professional level guts inside of it. So the image sensor is better, the zoom measures, everything's better. And you can put that kind of in the back of your sanctuary and zoom in close. And between its built-in image stabilization, everything else we'll sort it out in a way that looks okay. So that would be kind of the next step up. Now the problem is you got to take the camera and you got to do something with it, right? I mean, you got to take that. What you're gonna get out of all these cameras is an HDMI out feed. The same HDMI out that you have on your DVD player, Blu-ray player, Xbox, PlayStation, whatever. That's what you're going to get out of it is an HDMI feed, and you have to do something with it. I don't know. I've not seen a laptop or anything on the market that comes built in with an HDMI input. You'll have an HDMI port on there, but that's an output port. That's for taking the video from your computer, sending it somewhere else. It's not for bringing video into your computer. So if you want to use your computer as the thing that's actually going to stream to the world, you're going to need an HDMI capture box or capture card in order to do that. The nice thing about that is this is a very popular thing for people to do to stream their gaming. And I know this because I have a 14-year-old son. So what you're going to see marketed on like Amazon and those places is, XE10. It is that. What you're going to see these marketing as is game capture devices. And what it's going to do is it's going to have an HDMI input on it, and then it's probably going to have USB on the other end. And what it's designed to do is take that HDMI and turn it into something the computer can use. And then what people who are of the gaming persuasion do with it is they use it to then live stream to Twitch or YouTube or Facebook or all those kind of things. It's the same thing we want to do, right? We want to take an HDMI source and we want to stream to, maybe you want to stream to Twitch. I don't know, is anybody streaming their worship services to Twitch? That'd be kind of cool. No, because none of us know what Twitch is. I understand. But that's what those boxes do. And you can, they're fairly inexpensive. These used to be really expensive, but they're, because of the whole gaming thing, they've actually come down in price. But what you're going to see them sold as is game capture devices. But it can take any HDMI source. It can take an HDMI source from a camera, from a DVD player, from really anywhere. And again, just turn it into something that your computer can use that then, you know, the Facebook or YouTube app or whatever will recognize as a video source. So like I said, if you want to use your computer to do it, that's a handy way to do it. If you already have a computer, you know, that's fine. They do make all-in-one boxes, and I've used a couple different versions of these. And what basically the all-in-one box is designed to take an HDMI video source in, take the internet in, either wireless or wired, and then do all the streaming for you. And it sorts out all the streaming for you. You just basically you log the box into your YouTube account or your Facebook account, and then it just takes care of it. You're going to spend a little more on that. You're going to spend $150, $200 on an HDMI capture box. You're going to spend $700 to $1,000 on an all-in-one box. Is, you know, just something to know what's going on. The two kind of gold standards now for those, one is a company called Teradek, Teradek. Again, it's in the article. They make basically this little box that, again, it's got HDMI input, it's got a wired or wireless input in it, and then you set it up to stream. Most of these include things like bandwidth testers that will actually test the bandwidth of your internet connection, and then recommend a video setting that is going to not exceed your available bandwidth. And that's important, because if you're getting like that, usually what's happening, if you're getting like choppiness, or people, you know, and you're getting, or, you know, people are you know, slowdowns, or, you know, those kinds of things on your stream, chances are what you're doing is you're trying to broadcast out to the world at a higher quality than your internet will actually support. So the nice thing about most of the all-in-one boxes is they come with some kind of bandwidth tester, and some of them will actually adjust on the fly. You know, they're smart enough to know what's going on, is they'll adjust on the fly and notice, like, if there's a dip in your bandwidth, they'll lower the quality of your stream while the bandwidth's lower, and then raise it back later. I know the Teradek box does that. It has an adaptive stream to it, which basically it prioritizes keeping you connected, you know, over the quality of the stream. And since none of us are streaming movies or anything like that, I mean, I think that's kind of what we want. But it also lets you, you know, play with things, and you can, you know, play with settings and all that sort of stuff. So the Teradek box is pretty basic. It has a single HDMI input on it. That works. The thing that we use at our church that I don't know that I can recommend enough, if you can afford it, I don't know that I can recommend it enough. And that's the Sling Studio setup. So you can start with what is called the Sling Studio Hub, which is this white box. It has a single HDMI input in it. It can take, you know, internet, whatever. The nice thing about the Sling Studio box is it has an SD card slot on it, or you can put a USB hard drive in it. It's not only going to broadcast everything, it's going to record a copy locally. And it can actually record a local copy at a higher quality than what you're broadcasting at. So those two things are independent. The Teradek box doesn't do that. You know, if you're just going straight like from the Facebook app or the YouTube app, it doesn't do that. The best you can get is, after the fact, you can download what you streamed, but it's going to be at the quality that you streamed it. So by going with a box like Sling Studio, you not only can stream live, which is great, you can also record. And again, your recording can be at a higher quality and higher bit rate than what you're streaming. So we do that. We have one and we do that. And one of the things that we do is we stream it, which is awesome. And then as soon as the service is over, we take the recording and we dump the recording to DVD that we then make copies of for our people who don't have internet at home. So, you know, we wrap up worship about 10:30. By 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you know, our kind of people without internet have DVDs in their hands. So that's kind of nice. So it gives you the ability to do that. The other thing that this Link Studio box does is it lets you, the hub itself has one input. You can buy additional camera link boxes that allow you to eventually have up to 4. So like in our setup, what we have is we have the hub, and then we have 2 camera link boxes. So the hub is actually hooked up to our presentation feed. So it's the feed that would otherwise go to the screens in the front of the sanctuary. And then we have 2 cameras. We have the primary camera, which is a Canon XE10. And then we have a secondary kind of wide shot camera that's off to the side of the sanctuary and kind of mounted on a wall. The nice thing about the camera link boxes is they're battery powered, so you can put them anywhere you want, which is handy, because if your camcorder and your box are both are battery powered, then you can stick them, you know, you can put them in the middle of the view, put wherever you want to put them. You don't have to string cables and stuff. The hub actually makes its own Wi-Fi signal, but then all this stuff attaches to, so it's pretty sweet. And then you can actually get an app on your phone or iPad or iPod or whatever that turns it into a video source for Sling Studio as well. So we have 4 sources in ours. We have the 2 cameras. We have the feed from the soundboard, or the feed from the slides, our presentation feed, and then we have an iPod that is actually normally, not now, is normally actually pointed at the crowd, and it's kind of our crowd camera. So when we can show people the crowd, especially when we're doing like congregational singing or whatever. And then what you're going to do is you get you can use an iPad, or they have software for the computer as well that actually controls it. So the box is actually, it's got one button on it. And then you connect your iPad to the same wireless network and download the app. And what you basically get is you get a list of all the camera sources on the side. You can mix things together. You can do picture-in-picture. You can do all kinds of stuff. During our normal operating time, I have an 11-year-old that runs this for me, right? It is not complicated. It is the simplest video mixing system I've ever seen. And I will tell you, before Sling Studio came out, and you would need hardware solutions for all of this, you would have spent $7,000 to $8,000 on, and you still can. You can spend $7,000 to $8,000 on a hardware-based multi-camera system if you want to. You know, versus I think we're all into ours for about maybe under a little around $2,000, and we got it from the Memorial Committee because my Memorial Committee likes me. This is where we got the money from. But what it lets you do is let you do picture-in-picture, let you do, you know, all that kind of stuff. You can put graphics up, you can do overlays, you can do all that kind of stuff. But the nice thing is you can kind of switch between all these different cameras. Allie, you about to ask a question?
I was just going to ask if we could ask some questions, if people have any questions, because this is a lot.
I know. I just get ranting. Well, like I said, the details of this stuff is all in that article too, so you can go back. What did he mention? But that's good. We'll pause for questions.
Does anybody have any questions?
I'm sure everybody's got it memorized.
Yeah.
Part of what I want you to know is what's possible. And also so you can make wise investments now. So you know, I mean that's kind of, I mean, so if you're not at the point where you're like, you know, I can't see us, you know, we don't need, you know, 3 cameras and, you know, all this stuff, you know, at this moment. No, you probably don't. I will tell you that, like, we had to disassemble our system and we reassembled it. Well, first we reassembled it in my living room when we weren't going in the building at all. And now we reassembled it in the church parlor. And we're only using, you know, 2 inputs of the 4 we have possible to use on our Slingbox. We're using the feed from our presentation software, which plays all of our pre-recorded content and video content that gets sent in. And then there's one camera that feeds to me, and of course, and I connect my little rude things to that camera. And that's all we need right now. But we will eventually get back to our sanctuary, and we will eventually want to go back to having the more robust system, because we're going to have people and a way to do it. So I think that's the biggest thing you can be doing right now, is not just what you need for the moment, but where you want to go. I've been asking questions. There are some kind of other all-in-one solutions. Mevo makes one, MEVOO. I think it's 2 O's. Maybe it's just one, Mevo. And what is it? 1 O? Okay. And that's it's an all-in-one streaming box. It's actually the camera built in. It's all that stuff built in. It's small. It's discreet. It's meant that you can kind of put it somewhere. And it kind of, what Mevo lets you do is it lets you basically sort of fake being multicam. And it does that because the camera itself is actually takes a fairly wide shot. The camera itself is designed to take a fairly wide 4K shot of the room. And then you use the Mevo software that comes on your phone to basically zoom in to individual pieces of it, of that shot. And you can preset that. So it lets you the angle doesn't change much, but it lets you kind of zoom into this piece and zoom into this piece over here and zoom into this piece over there. So it's a inexpensive way to sort of fake, a multicam setup. It's not a bad option at all. One of the things to know about the Mevo is it has a built-in microphone. It's not, the microphone that's built into your Mevo is not all that much better than the microphone you'd find built into a normal smartphone. What it does let you do is the app can take the audio from your smartphone that's controlling it as the audio source. So you can plug the audio, say the other end of your little guy here or whatever, you can plug the audio into your phone and let the Mevo guy just be the video, let the audio come to the phone, and then the Mevo software is just going to stitch those two things together before it streams it out. So if you're going to go that route, definitely find a way to get it so that you can, so that you can put it back together again. I mean, so you put it together. So you definitely want a better audio. The problem that I actually have with that is it's a dead end road. There isn't anywhere to go from there. So you'll have what you have. You'll get better at using it, which is good. But it's not like it's that different. But again, I think it also depends on, again, what your goals are and what size church you are. If you're a smaller church with a smaller room, then it's going to work great for you, and you're probably never going to ever do more than that anyway. So why not? Just get the all-in-one, make it simple, and move on with life. If you're a larger church or a medium-sized church, and this is going to be something you're going to do more of, in my opinion, it's better to invest in like a Sling Studio box, a Sling Studio Hub. Even if you only use one input on it now, you'll preserve the ability to do it later. Right, so if we have a soundboard, and how do we get the audio into our smartphone or iPad? Perfect, good question. It kind of depends on the soundboard you have. So as far as how actually that works. Most soundboards will have some sort of auxiliary send, right? There's you have all the microphones that come into the soundboard, and then it mixes them together, and eventually it sends it out the main mix to your speakers in the room, right? Like that's how most of us know to use it. Well, you have a couple of options. You can either try to grab that main mix, and typically it's going to come out MEVO. I'm answering some Aline's question. I'll let Ali do. So you'll have a main out. You can either grab that main out, which is and again, it really depends on your soundboard. I think grab our little portable one, but most of them have something. Something coming out of them. The challenge that we ran into is that there are things in the room that we don't mic. So we don't mic the organ. The organ's plenty loud enough. The organ does not need to go through our sound system, right? But because we don't mic the organ, or at least we don't mic the organ in a way that goes, through the soundboard into the main speakers in the room, because oh my goodness, the live stream doesn't get any organ. So that's what you have to kind of, contend with. Most soundboards will also have some number of auxiliary outs, and you may use these for monitor mixes or whatever. My suggestion is always to designate one of the auxiliary outs to your live stream mix, and mix the and mix an audio send just for the live stream. We can talk a little bit about lighting. So we might, but yeah, that's would be my suggestion. So that's what we have. It's fairly fancy now. We had an old kind of very simple analog board, but we had aux2, which was our send that went just for the live stream. Well, the other thing it actually fed is it fed the live stream, and then it fed our assistive listening devices within the church, because they both needed the same thing. But you can take you can take a feed from your soundboard. Most of the time, what your soundboard is going to put out is some kind of line level out. And if it's a line level out, it's really just a matter of getting the right cable converter deals to convert from either the 1/4 inch or XLR that's inevitably coming out of your soundboard into the 1/8 inch that's on most everything else. So the most camcorders have the 1/8 inch, which is this style, have that style input. So it's just a matter of doing that. That actually raises another question I want to talk about is, at a certain point, some of us capture audio and video separate, and then you got to put them back together. The nice thing about doing things like buying one of these and putting it in your camcorder is you're putting the audio and the video together at the camcorder, and then it's all just traveling down the HDMI together, and it all is taken care of, and it's slick, and it works out well. Like Sling Studio will actually let you take the audio from your 4 different camera sources and the audio from the line in that it has. So if you're doing a line in from, say, from your soundboard, it'll give you a digital mixer where you can mix all those things together, which is pretty sweet. It'll also has a setting where it will only turn on the audio from the camera that is currently being broadcast. So which is really helpful for us on like Sunday mornings now, because the main camera that we use, has the input from this, and then otherwise it's the input from the computer that's playing our videos. Well, if there's a video playing because we're doing special music or something, I really don't want this being broadcast to the world, right? And so the nice thing is the only time that my sound is broadcast to the world is when my camera's on. There's actually a little red light on it that tells me it's on, and that keeps me from. So, all right. Anyway, so part of it, so I think there's a graduation of levels here as far as how we do things, and again, my gift to you now, if your congregations are anything like my congregations, is there's a real spirit of just being willing to try stuff now, right? Like, at a certain point, like everything just got thrown out the window a month ago, and folks are willing to try stuff, and folks are willing to invest in stuff. So taking that opportunity, seems to make sense. I would, my strong suggestion is that you invest in as much as you can within reason, but you invest in as much as you can, even if you're not going to use all the capabilities now, because like I said, I don't think this is going anywhere. So you want to be able to definitely do, build on things later. A couple of just kind of random thoughts I had that I wanted to share is that definitely the dominant places that people are streaming is YouTube and Facebook. So if you're streaming online, you're usually probably streaming to one of those two things. It is possible, you probably know this, but if you didn't know this, it is possible to actually, if you've got like a Zoom account, to do like a Zoom meeting like we're doing, and then also take what we're doing and stream it to YouTube or Facebook. So we could be streaming this conversation to YouTube right now. That's actually, I'm on the local school board. That's how we're having our school board meetings. So we're all logging into Zoom. Everybody else is just tuning in to YouTube and watching the stream. It's similar like how they were sitting in the galleries. There are people who are doing worship this way. Park Hill United Methodist Church in Denver is doing a really good job actually of doing their worship this way, where all of their worship leaders in their individual homes actually join a Zoom, and then they broadcast that Zoom to Facebook. And I think they're doing Facebook. Anyway, you can do Facebook or YouTube. It actually works pretty well.
Can I ask you a question about that? It's interesting you say that, because yesterday I was watching the Council of Bishops meeting, and they had a terrible time, and they were doing it that way where they had the bishops in a Zoom, and they were streaming it out to YouTube, and it crashed. And I think one of the things, and I'm not sure if it's as big a deal as it was the second Sunday after we all got online, but I was wondering if you would speak to how that works. And a lot of the people on this call are in areas that don't have as, their connectivity isn't as broad as in other places. So I wondered if you could speak to that, how that might impact the choices that we make.
Yes, absolutely. So, so a couple things. So one, just here's what I can just only speak from my experience. We started off streaming to Facebook when we started off a year ago, and after 3 months, we switched to streaming to YouTube. We did that for a couple of reasons. One is Facebook likes to play well with its app on your phone. It doesn't really like to play well with anything else. It will try to, but we were getting, we were having connection issues and all that kind of stuff. And it's basically, they haven't figured them out themselves. They haven't figured themselves out since the whole like Russian hacking thing. And so they're pretty locked down as far as security goes, as far as who can post what and everything like that. And it still doesn't seem like it's a complete solution. I think the other thing too is, Facebook is a social network first, versus YouTube, which is a video streaming platform. This is what YouTube does. So we found YouTube to be a lot more stable an option when we went to using kind of third-party hardware, like the Sling Studio Box and everything. And I've heard the same thing from people broadcasting from Zoom to either Facebook or YouTube, is that YouTube is proving, though obviously not perfectly according to the Council of Bishops, YouTube is proving to be a much more stable platform to stream to than Facebook is. So you also don't have to be subscribed. I think there's a lot of advantages to it. One of the things that Jason mentioned that I hadn't heard before, but I looked up and is actually true, when it comes to engagement, which is kind of a big deal for me, people will stay engaged longer on YouTube than they will on Facebook, because Facebook there's all that other stuff happening around you. And then finally, the thing that we've heard from our folks was YouTube has a lot better penetration on things like smart TVs. And things like that. And a lot of our folks will gather to watch worship on like their smart television, and they'll gather large groups, everybody in the family will get together and watch it together. Facebook's getting there, but they're not there yet. So I'm definitely a big fan if you're going to pick one platform to stream to, stream to YouTube. There are services you can buy that will multi-stream you to all the other platforms at once. They're expensive. And even at our size, we're not particularly a huge church, but at our size, it's just not worth spending that kind of money on it. We just post the YouTube link to our Facebook page, and everybody's watching it. Bandwidth issues are what they are. I mean, I wish there was a magic bullet, but there's not. Some of the nicer hardware is nice because it will give you a lot more control over your bit rate and how much you're trying to push down your pipe if it's not particularly big. The other option is, which is what I also see a lot of other churches doing in our area, is you pre-record it the night before, and then you use either Facebook or YouTube's Premiere feature. And what the Premiere feature does is it lets you upload the video, gives you a link to your video, tells everybody your video's there, but then doesn't let them actually watch it until the time you designate. And folks can even set a reminder on the Premiere that they're doing it. So we actually did this for our Monday, Thursday service. We pre-recorded the whole thing. We set it, I uploaded it and we set it to premiere at 7 o'clock on Thursday night, and we advertised that's when it was going to be there. And if you click the link, you'll go to YouTube and it will say, this video will start 7 o'clock on Thursday night. Same thing if you're doing a live stream, pre-scheduled live stream. You know, and then you can still watch it later, of course. You can start whenever you want to start it. But it lets you kind of, you know, build that. I was impressed the number of people who tuned in 7 o'clock on Thursday night. You know, even though it wasn't live, there was no part of it that was live, it was all pre-recorded. That people still, I wasn't sure if people would just wait to see it the next morning or what. But a large number of people still showed up and was part of it. So I was pretty impressed with that. So the other thing to do, so the thing to do really is if you want to record, if you want to create content and record in a place that you don't have great internet, then you can, you know, I honestly, I don't know what you do other than pre-record it, you know, and then like upload it and then again use one of the Premiere features. If you do that, you're going to end up with obnoxiously large files, which is the other problem. So a lot of us are using, a lot of folks who are pre-recording, you know, are also taking the chance to run it through iMovie and put little graphics on it and do all that stuff, which is cool. And then iMovie will give you, I think Windows Movie Maker is still a thing, and I think it will too. It'll give you a share to Facebook button, which sounds great, except that iMovie anticipates that you are editing 5 minutes of your kid on the swing, right? It is not really anticipating an hour-long worship service. So if you look at the file size that iMovie is creating, or any of those products are creating when they create that product, when they create that final output, you're talking about something that's going to end up being several gigs in size. And even I have pastors who live in Metro Denver who struggle to get their 4 gigabyte worship files, you know, uploaded the night before to what's going on. And so if you're in any other place, you're going to be in trouble. So there's 2 things you need to know around that. One, if you're a Mac user, as there's Apple actually has a $50 product called Compressor. It is a professional level, but still very easy to use compression technology. And basically what it'll do is it'll take your large video file and compress it into something small. If you want a free option, or you're a PC user or Linux user, something like that, there's another product called Handbrake, Handbrake, Handbrake. And it's a fairly universal. That is a handy tool to have around because it can read pretty much any video file out there, and then it can transcode it and export it into any other kind of video file out there. And they all have 3 setups. So you'll go and it'll say, what kind of output file do you want? You know, and they both have ones that are pre-set up for web streaming. And then you can basically tell it, you know, how high a quality you want to get. On average, what I have seen is, you know, still even using, I think, on Handbrake, using their high quality, which is, I think, still 1080p, but drops the bit rate quite a bit. Anyway, there's a preset. You don't need to know all that. You just use the high quality. But even using their high quality web stream, or their quality, anyway, high quality web streaming prefix takes a 4 gigabyte file and turns it into a 500 megabyte file. You can upload a 500 megabyte file over LTE on your phone, you know, if you get desperate enough. Like, that's not impossible. But definitely over slower DSL and stuff, it's going to work a whole lot better. You know, I use Compressor, and I use the, there's a preset that's called Web Streaming Broadband High. And again, it takes files, you know, our sermon files and stuff that come out of our editing software. I use Final Cut, which is kind of like souped up iMovie. But it takes stuff that comes out of our Final Cut software that are usually around a gigabyte size for 20 minutes, you know, cuts it down to a couple hundred megs. So does Compressor work with Android? No, it's just a desktop Mac app. So most of the transcoding software you're going to find is going to be computer based. It's going to be, you need to get your files onto your computer and do it there. So Handbrake is the one that works on everything. So, you know, I learned about Handbrake years ago when I was using it to rip my DVD collection into something digital so I could watch it on my Apple TV, which of course is only quasi-legal, but we'll leave that alone for now. It'll let you do that too, by the way. But it's free software. So that's great. But that's, I mean, unfortunately, for now, there's not a good, easy solution other than, I think, pre-recording and uploading if you really want to, if you want to record, if you want to let people see you in a space that doesn't have good quality internet. That's kind of what you got. So I'd say your two choices are you either you invest in some sort of equipment that's going to let you tweak your bit rate down to something that it can use. Though, if you're just streaming from your smartphone using the Facebook app, it's going to do that for you, or at least it's going to try to. Maybe not as good as the hardware would, but it's going to try. So that's about what you got. And there was a question too about like sharing text and slides and all that sort of stuff. There's no shame, and professionals do this. There is no shame with putting a small or medium-sized screen right here and just filming you next to the screen. You'll see professional broadcasters doing that. I think that this is one of those cases, depending on how long you think you all are going to be doing this, and I don't know what the New Mexico situation is. You probably don't want, if you've got 60, 70-inch TVs or giant projection systems in your sanctuary, you probably don't want to be standing next to them. They're probably too big. And in order to get that whole thing in the shot, you're going to be tiny. I have suggested, and I know people have, spend the $150, and that's probably all it costs. Spend the $150 and buy a 32-inch flat screen at Walmart or wherever you're going to get it. And set it up next to you. So here I've got, this is my extra monitor that I use for a few things. There you go. All right, did I come back? There we go. I mean, and just, you could do that. I mean, I don't, what you want to be careful of is if you do that in much the same way you want your body filling as much of the screen as possible, you want your content filling as much of this screen as possible. So you want big font, you want all the words, because you're only going to get a quarter of the screen, right? So you're going to go from getting all of the screen, you're only going to get a piece of it if you're the one sitting next to it. So I don't think there's any shame in doing it that way. And I think if you do it right, it can look really, really nice. And if you're on Jason Moore's webinar, that's what he did. It says, all right, so let's do questions. I have you in here. It sounds like you guys do a mix of live recorded segments. Is that right? Yes. I am a big fan of this, to the point that we have decided as a church that even when we can go back to having 10 people in the building again, that would be enough to have our whole worship team there and just record it all live and in person. We're going to keep doing it the way we're doing, because it just works so much better. So we pre-record our special music, and we have people do it in their homes. And I actually pre-record the sermon, and I pre-record the sermon actually in the sanctuary, so people can see it. And then everything else, so I then live broadcast my opening greeting. We have a way through our website and through our app that people can submit their prayer requests, kind of like a digital prayer request card. And you can do that with a Google form, by the way. That you just make a Google form called prayer request. And so I will do a live greeting, welcome everybody, any announcements need to go on, tell them what we're going to do the day, theme of the day, say hi. Often my daughter wanders in and waves. And then we'll do a pre-recorded song. We'll come back. I'll go through the prayer requests that came in that morning, and then we'll have Joy's Concerns and a prayer time. And then we'll go to a pre-recorded children's message, pre-recorded sermon, come back, and then I'll do a live kind of closing and benediction. So I'm a big fan because it lets us bring in a diversity of people. We've actually been recording. We were supposed to have new member welcome, which of course we're not doing. So every Sunday we've had 2 of our new member families record a greeting from home saying, hey, we're so-and-so introducing themselves. And we play that at the beginning. So I like, if we needed to go to just uploading video, I would do it. I like having some sort of live component, just because I think it gives people a reason to be there. Yeah, we had a question about lighting earlier. What was the question about lighting?
That was from Kelly. Is Kelly still on?
Yes, I am. I don't mind just sharing it live if y'all are cool with that.
Yeah.
We're noticing that we're just having a struggle getting some cohesiveness between our live lighting and our online lighting. We're in the sanctuary. Of course, it doesn't matter. We're doing what looks best online. But when I'm sitting in the sanctuary looking at our set and imagining people coming back in here, for instance, we can change the color of our lighting. And yellow in the sanctuary looks white on the video screen. And so it looks great online, but then when you're in the sanctuary and you're looking at the chancel, it's very, very yellow. So I'm just wondering what you use when we come back to the sanctuary, when we have this hybrid approach to online and in the sanctuary. What are you doing to make both situations look best with the lighting that you have?
Oh, right. So we have very little control over our lighting, unfortunately, I have to say. And I'm a little jealous if you can change all your colors and everything. I gotta say.
Well, it's brand new, so.
I'm a little jealous. Well, and that's that. But in general, that there is a conundrum there. Mostly because the lighting wants, the camera wants all the light it can get. And our human eyes are amazing. Like, our eyes are amazing. We can adjust anything. Cameras, not so much. So oftentimes you run into is you need to have it much brighter wherever you're recording than you would ever probably normally have it for in person. So that's a challenge. I would say if you have a color temp issue, I'm wondering about the white balance on your camera. If you don't, that is one of the features you gain when you step up into some of the more, dedicated camera equipment, is you get a white balance control. And I noticed that there's a difference between even just between the parlor and the sanctuary, and I had to tweak the white balance on our XC10. So if you've got yellow that looks like white, that sounds like a white balance issue to me. And most of those cameras come with the automatic white balance turned on, which is fine. But it sounds like you might need to do a tweak there. And that's, you just get a white sheet of paper and hold it up and tweak it till it actually look white. But yeah, that's what it looks like. I don't know if there's a good answer other than to say, especially so our channels, one of the reasons we had to go to a much nicer camera is that the lighting in our sanctuary is fairly dim. I mean, it looks fine, and when you're in person, you don't notice because your eyes adjust. But some of the less expensive cameras hated it, and we just never could get a good shot. But you really want to throw as much light at the wall as you can. So, yeah, how's that for a non-answer answer? Yeah. But did you know what camera you're using?
It's a good one. That's about all I could tell you. I've got another guy who's
yeah. Have him check the white balance on it and make sure.
Okay.
I mean, and just see what it is, because if it's a color temperature issue, that tends to be what it is.
Okay.
One thing I will warn you. I mean, I just this random fact. I have a really nice DSLR camera that also shoots video, and I used to use that for video stuff and everything, and it can work. A lot of times the DSLRs, because they're not primarily video cameras, one of the little sneaky things about them, like mine, you cannot leave it in video mode for more than 30 minutes. It'll turn itself off. And so, which is fine if you're only shooting 10-minute videos. Tends to be a problem when you're shooting worship services. Learned that the hard way. Peter, how do we take all our segments and put them together? That's a really good question. So we load up our segments individually into our presentation software, and then we just click through them in the presentation software.
What I was thinking about is I'm from Socorro, so consequently we do not have a lot of tech people down here. And how would it be for the layperson to try to put this stuff together? Thank goodness we were finally getting a pastor after 8 months come July. Cassandra is coming to us. But we, as a leadership team, have been trying to put things together. But we've got, bits and pieces of people that can do the segments, but it's putting everything together that's kind of the big question mark with very little internet down here.
Oh, gotcha. I mean, that is, I mean, it's, you know, it's a couple different choices and none of them are particularly good. I'm sorry. You know, I mean, you can, I mean, if you can, you know, you know, the movie editing products that come with either your PC or your Mac, you know, you can pretty simply string things together. Are you pre-recording the whole thing or are you doing any of it live?
We're just at the point now where we're just doing Bible studies because
Okay.
it's just a leadership team.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, you can. The nice thing is, if you can get the video segments, you know, you can. I mean, you can play these video segment. You know, you can embed videos in a PowerPoint and just click through them.
Okay.
You know, and so that's kind of the most basic way to do it. Yeah, I was just question just asked what are we using? We use a product called Faithlife. It's by Faithlife. It's called Proclaim. I cannot say good stuff about Proclaim. You know, one of the things, so Proclaim is presentation software. If you're used to PowerPoint, it works kind of like that. You can put the stuff together. But what it is, the nice thing about it is it's cloud-based, and you can have multiple installs. So especially now, you know, my music person can be at her house and entering the music stuff, and I can be at my house entering my stuff, and my office manager can be at her house entering her stuff. You know, and it all just goes together. You can even do it in the moment. And this was really trick for Palm Sunday. Is on Palm Sunday we delivered palm branches to everybody and we said, hey, take a picture of yourself waving your palm branch. So everyone took pictures of themselves waving palm branches. They emailed, you know, at the beginning of the worship service, they emailed my office manager who collected all those pictures, inserted them from her house into the presentation, which then syncs through the cloud to my house where the thing was being broadcast from. So at the end of the service, we could show everybody the pictures that they all took at the beginning of the service. It was trick. It was like magic, right? And people loved it. You can't do that with PowerPoint. I mean, that's so but yeah, it's also super easy to work with. Is that questions about OBS? I have not worked a lot with it. You know, it's a nice tool because it's free. You know, and so I don't. What does OBS stand for? It's a. I'm trying to remember what it stands for. People are looking at me like I don't know what this is. So OBS lets you basically, you know, control your stream, and I think you can do like multiple inputs at the same time, and you know all that sort of stuff. When this question came up before in another seminar I was on, and I did some digging around at people who are using it. The problem is that it's fine software if it works for you. I think the learning curve on it is a lot higher. It's not going to be quite as turnkey. It's a little bit, you know, so if you have some people with some, you know, technical expertise and who aren't, you know, discouraged by that, it can work and it should work. I think most of us are in a place where we just want it to work and we want it to be easy, right? And, you know, it's that whole like, you know, good, fast, cheap, you know, pick two. So if we want something to be, you know, good and reliable, then we're probably going to end up paying for it. And the nice thing about something you pay for is you get a lot better support. So, you know, especially things like sling boxes and stuff like that. Yeah, there's an upfront cost, but it's also a one-time cost. You know, and there, you know, there's an ongoing fee. You know, the question that I think you want to have is you want something that's either simple, it's going to work. I will always pay for simple that works. You know, simple and works. I won't pay for that because we want stuff to be reliable. You also want really good support. So the nice thing about some of the stuff that we use, Sling Studio, there's a very active Facebook group for Sling Studio users. In fact, I think there's an active Facebook group for church Sling Studio users. And we've asked questions in there, you know, when we were getting up, like, how are people doing this, all kind of stuff. And everyone's very friendly and very helpful. So that's a way to do it. I think, me personally, you know, I served a church where we tried to do everything on a shoestring and we never wanted to spend a dime. And I feel like we always created more headaches than we solved, you know, doing that rather than finding a way to invest a little bit of money and just, you know, use the right tools to do the job. So I think this is one of those places, because this is infrastructure, right? I mean, an infrastructure, you know, it's not glamorous, it's not sexy. If we do the infrastructure right, it fades into the background and we stop noticing it. But I think it's also worth investing in, and the more that we invest in the better quality it is, the more that it will fade in the background and we'll stop noticing it, right? Like the one time I went and turned on my Sling Studio box and something was wrong with our Wi-Fi and it didn't work, I about like lost my mind. I'm like, oh my God, this is supposed to work. Yeah.
Do we have any other, I think we'll probably just go till 2:30. Would that be okay? So do we have any burning questions out there or suggestions people have had or things that they've tried that have worked really well or haven't worked very well? Well, can I ask this question? If we were to have another webinar along these lines, is there any particular topics that you all would want to have featured in it? Did y'all hear me?
Glad to know it's not just my conference when I ask questions like that.
One for me is still nailing down the types of programs that it takes to stream different things at once. For instance, we're looking at getting a camera that we had a bid for, and the camera itself would stream to Facebook. And then I talked to them again after all this happened and said, by the way, we also need to record and have it ready for YouTube and the website. And they go, oh, well, yeah, it doesn't do that. It seems like there's so many different programs. And some things, like some cameras can stream at the same time. And I kind of feel like we're just adding stuff on. And I wonder if there's a simpler way. And I'm especially thinking, what is going to work for that, high school student who's volunteering so it's easy for them to use. And so I think just getting into some of the details and some of the recommended programs and trying to figure out what programs work with what, cameras and different things like that. And anyway, I'll try not to go to any more questions. I have a ton of questions. And so this has been helpful, but of course it's just caused more questions.
Well, that's what I was thinking, that we've sort of got the tip of the iceberg. So y'all are going to go back to your churches and have like a dozen more questions. So maybe this is something to revisit in 2 weeks or so.
Allie, one of the things that we discussed in our leadership team this morning was fellowship. It seems to be a need with folks just seeing other people's faces and connecting, other than, we use WebEx, we use Zoom, but trying to figure out a platform where people could just kind of gather, not necessarily for a Bible study, but just to be able to say, hi, I haven't seen you,
Mm-hmm.
So, we use Zoom for that in our church. If that's what we've been doing. And we host this thing called, on Wednesdays, called Parent Power Hour, which is Wednesdays at 4, which is basically parents who get together and celebrate not killing their children. I don't
know if you've heard about this, Jeremy, but I think a prevailing thought is once things get loosened up just a little bit, maybe, is having people join together in homes, like 10 people, for example, and watch an online service or watch Sunday, do Sunday school or Bible study. I think that might be something that takes off because it provides a little bit of face-to-face and not so much Zoom exhaustion, Zoom fatigue.
Yeah. No, I think I've heard of that. I think that's good. I did want to talk, Blossom, your question there is I think you're right. The problem is there's 1,000 options, right? And so the most important thing I think you can do is you can sit down and say now and in the near term future, in the next 2-3 years, what can we see ourselves wanting to do? And then just make sure that whole thing so that when you're purchasing stuff, that it's going to be able to do all the things you want it to do. And again, if you're a small church, it's only ever going to, then that's fine. Then you probably can deal with a pretty basic solution. If down the line you're going to want to do different cameras, pictures in pictures, the whole 9 yards, then you're going to want to buy into a platform that will, even if you don't do it right now, let you get there, right? So I sound like a broken record here, I'm sure, but the $1,300 it'll cost you to get a Sling Studio Hub and an okay camera to plug into it, it's more than you're going to spend on like a Mevo. That's going to be $500. It's, but you're going to have, and you're going to get similar functionality. But Mevo is the end of the line, right? Whereas this is like, you can build on it later. So I think the problem is just kind of imagine not only now, but where in the future it was going to.
Well, and you were talking about the Sling Studio, and we had looked, an addition for us was a Hilo box so that we could record. But would the Sling Studio actually do what a Hilo box would do? And is that a familiar term for you?
Yeah. Absolutely will. Yeah. So it will record, it will broadcast. You can just record with the Sling Studio if you want to. So we've done that before too, where we use it just to record. We did this special music thing anyway. But yeah, I mean, you can just record with it as well. You can record, you can broadcast, you can just broadcast, and do either way. So yeah, I mean, it does do all those things.
Well, I'm putting my email down here, and of course I'll have this this recording available, well, hopefully next week or so, and then we'll have that content out. And then I'm going to put my email down here, and if you have any other questions, you can send them to me, and I can either try and answer them myself or send them off to Jeremy. And if there are enough questions, I think it's worth looking into another webinar or something along those lines.
So Ali, you guys have access to the recording of Jason's webinar for a little while yet, don't you? Don't you get it for like a month or something?
Yes, I think we might be at the tail end of that though.
Okay, because if folks haven't seen that, it's worth worth the hour with him. He'll cover a lot of this stuff.
It was 2 hours of content.
Yeah.
Good stuff. And I've invited people to see it themselves. They have to pay $35, but it's worth the $35.
I think so.
Well, thank you so much, Jeremy. This has been a lot.
I know, there's so much. It's really helpful just to listen to all that's available. I mean, sometimes it can feel overwhelming, but please, those of you on the call, go back to your churches and see if you have any other questions, anything we can help you fine tune for the new normal. I'm not sure whether it's a new normal or the new normal. But we're here to help you, and we really want you to take that sense of stress away. This I think needs to be more manageable, more sustainable, and I really appreciate all of you innovators out there. Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you, Jeremy. We'll talk soon.